You know, that feeling, right? That sudden heavy knot that just drops right into the bottom of your stomach.
Oh, yeah. Everyone knows that exact feeling.
Right. Usually hits you when you're, I don't know, staring at an email. Or maybe you're looking across the office at a specific team member and the realization just sort of washes over you.
You realize their performance has really slipped.
Exactly. Or maybe their attitude is turning toxic. And you realize, oh no, I have to have the talk.
The dreaded feedback conversation.
Yes. You have to give them tough, constructive feedback. And if you're like, well, almost every professional on the planet, you are absolutely dreading it.
It is arguably the least favorite thing for any leader or manager to do. I mean, we instinctively recoil from it.
Because we hate conflict, right?
Right. Human beings are generally wired to avoid interpersonal conflict. But as we all know, deep down, just ignoring the issue never actually resolves it.
It never does. Okay, let's unpack this. Because the way I see it, giving constructive feedback is basically like ripping off a bandage.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, like we all know it needs to happen. It's inevitable. But we build it up so much in our heads until it becomes the absolute least favorite thing we have to do all week.
And we just keep putting it off.
Exactly. And that's the mission of today's deep dive. We are exploring a really brilliant guide from Stella Pop, which is a business management and consulting firm.
They really broke this down perfectly.
They did. The guide details exactly why these feedback conversations usually fail and, more importantly, how to actually fix them.
Because the stakes are incredibly high here.
Right. So our goal today is to equip you, the listener, with the tools to stop botching these talks. We want to help you stop making the same predictable mistakes and start using feedback to actually turn good employees into great ones.
I love that because most leaders, they stumble through these moments with the absolute best of intentions.
But it still goes wrong.
It does. Because they don't understand the mechanics of how feedback is received. So they end up creating more friction, breeding confusion, and they completely miss the opportunity to fix the issue.
And a lot of that comes back to that dread we were just talking about, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Because according to the Stella Pop guide, that pre-conversation anxiety directly causes the very first massive mistake that leaders make.
The avoidance trap.
Exactly. Because we dread the conversation, our first instinct is just to avoid it completely. We fall into the trap of waiting way too long.
We really do. We tell ourselves things like, well, I'm just waiting for the right time.
Or we cross our fingers and hope, hey, maybe it was just a bad week. Maybe it'll magically correct itself by Monday.
Right. But what's fascinating here is there is no right time. Ever.
Wow, really?
Yeah. And the psychological mechanism at play when we delay is super interesting. When you wait to give feedback, you aren't just hitting pause on a conversation.
What are you doing then?
You are actively communicating a message to that employee. Think about it. If someone is constantly missing deadlines, or maybe they're consistently short with colleagues in meetings.
Oh, I've seen that happen.
Right. And you as the leader say absolutely nothing. Your silence tells them that this behavior is perfectly acceptable.
Oh, wow. So inaction is an action.
Exactly. You are silently endorsing the exact behavior that is driving you crazy.
You're institutionalizing it, basically.
Yes. And the fallout doesn't just affect that one individual. The cost of waiting is astronomical for the rest of your team.
Because they see it happening.
Right. Think about your high performers, the ones who always deliver, the ones who inevitably end up, picking up the slack for the underperformer.
Oh, man. That is so frustrating for them.
It breeds so much resentment. They see that toxic or lazy behavior going unchecked by leadership, and their trust in you just completely erodes.
So by avoiding one uncomfortable conversation to save yourself some anxiety, you're actually poisoning the morale of your whole team.
That's exactly what's happening.
So the fix the guide offers is speed. You have to address the problem within 24 to 48 hours.
It has to be top of mind for both of you. You can't let it fester.
But, I struggle with this 24-hour rule a little bit. Why is that?
Well, wait. If I'm really frustrated, isn't it better to wait a few weeks? So I cool down and don't say something I regret. Like, if an employee just derailed a massive client project, my immediate impulse is to wait a week.
Sure.
Because if I go in there the next morning, I'm going to be seeing red.
That tension between cooling off and acting quickly is where so many managers get stuck. But here's the thing. Cooling down is mandatory. You should never give feedback when you're furious.
Right, because you'll just yell.
Exactly. You're just reacting, not leading. But taking a walk around the block or, sleeping on it for one night is very different from stewing on an issue for a full week.
I see.
Because When you let an issue marinate for days, your brain plays a trick on you.
What kind of trick?
You agonize over it so much internally that you trick yourself into believing you've actually prepared for the conversation.
Man, I know exactly what you mean. You build this whole narrative in the shower or like on your commute.
Yes. You're having fake arguments with them in your head. Right. So by the time you finally call them into the office a week later, you feel like you have a script, but you actually have nothing concrete to say.
You walk in completely blind, and that leads directly to mistake number 2, which is winging it.
Winging it. Just improvising the feedback.
Yep. Walking into a highly sensitive, emotionally charged meeting with just a shower argument as your guide is a recipe for disaster.
I can imagine.
When you wing it, you ramble. You mix up different issues from like 3 months ago with something that happened yesterday.
You just unload everything at once.
Exactly. You're vague because you haven't pinned down the exact root of the problem. And most dangerously, when the employee inevitably gets defensive,
Which they will.
you completely forget the main points you actually wanted to cover in the first place.
And from the employee's perspective, that has to feel incredibly unfair.
Oh, totally.
They walk into a room, and suddenly their boss is just unloading this vague, disorganized list of frustrations. They're going to feel ambushed.
It just becomes a venting session for the manager, and no actual solutions are reached.
None at all. So to prevent this, the Stella Pop Guide dictates in a non-negotiable step.
Yes. You must spend 15 to 20 minutes physically preparing.
Like writing it out.
You have to write it down. Document the specific observable behaviors, the exact impact those behaviors had on the team, and what the desired outcome looks like.
The guide also emphasizes anticipating their reactions during this prep phase, which I found really interesting.
It's crucial.
Like if you know this person tends to deflect blame onto other departments, or maybe they tend to just shut down completely, you can mentally map out your response to that ahead of time.
Having those notes in front of you acts as an anchor. So if emotions start running high in the room, you don't have to match their energy.
You just look down at your paper.
Exactly. You just look at your paper and stay on track.
Okay, so that anchor is your lifeline. Because once you actually sit down in the room, the execution of the meeting is where things often fall apart.
Right. How we deliver the message is just as critical as the message itself.
Which brings us to the actual conversation. So, you haven't delayed. You did your 15 minutes of prep. You're sitting across from them.
You're in the room.
We're in the room. And this is where mistake number 3 comes in. And it is a trap almost everyone falls into. Talking too much.
It really is the default mode for a lot of leaders.
Because frustration, even when it's prepared frustration, often leads to over-explaining. The manager sits down and just starts lecturing.
They treat feedback like a one-way data transfer.
Right. You talk, the employee just nods to make it stop, and nothing meaningful changes. But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Because my instinct, and I think the instinct of a lot of people listening, is to push back on this idea.
In what way?
Well, if I'm the leader, and I'm the one giving the feedback, shouldn't I be doing the talking?
It feels like you should, right?
Yeah. It's like a teacher handing back a graded test. I need to point to the paper and tell them exactly what they got wrong so they can fix it. Why is talking a mistake?
Well, while it feels natural to command the room, it is fundamentally flawed if your goal is actual behavioral change.
Okay, explain that.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of how adult learning works, real growth requires reflection and ownership.
Reflection.
Right. When you just dictate the solutions, the employee's brain stays entirely passive.
They're just receiving.
Exactly. But by forcing them to speak, you are physically forcing their prefrontal cortex to map out the problem and the solution. They literally wire their own brain to own the fix.
Oh, wow. So if I just lecture them, they're basically just waiting for me to finish my sentence.
Yes. And beyond the neuroscience of it, if you do all the talking, you are missing vital context.
Like what?
Well, you might be completely unaware that they're struggling with a lack of resources, or maybe another manager gave them conflicting priorities that morning.
Or a software issue.
Exactly. Maybe there's a systemic bottleneck in your company's workflow that you are totally blind to.
And if you don't ask questions, you just don't know.
You simply don't know. The death of real growth happens when managers assume their perspective is the only reality.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
You're just diagnosing the symptom without actually asking the patient where it hurts.
That's a perfect way to put it.
So the mechanical fix for this is what Stella Pop calls the 70-30 rule.
The 70-30 rule is a game changer.
During a feedback conversation, The employee should be talking 70% of the time, and you, the leader, should only be talking 30% of the time.
It flips the traditional dynamic entirely on its head.
It really does.
You're engaging in a rich two-way discovery process instead of, just preaching from a podium.
And when a manager overtalks, they aren't just losing the employee's attention. They're often working themselves up.
Oh, definitely.
And that unchecked, rambling frustration is exactly what pushes managers over the line into mistake number 4.
Making it personal.
Yes, making it personal. You're lecturing, you're annoyed they aren't getting it, and suddenly you shift from critiquing a specific task to attacking a character trait.
It's a tiny, insidious shift. And as the source notes, you might not even realize you're doing it in the heat of the moment.
Because you're just so frustrated.
Right. It's the subtle difference between saying, you missed the deadline for the client proposal, and saying you are being lazy and irresponsible with your work.
One is a fact and the other is an insult.
Exactly. And the moment that insult registers, the employee's brain shifts entirely into threat response mode.
Defensive mode.
The amygdala takes over. When someone feels their character is under attack, all cognitive learning just stops.
They stop listening completely.
They aren't thinking about how to improve their workflow anymore. They are completely consumed with defending their identity. The conversation is effectively over the second you make it personal.
So how do we stop ourselves from crossing that line? Because let's be honest, in the heat of the moment, a word like lazy might feel incredibly accurate to a frustrated manager who has been picking up the slack all week.
The discipline comes from focusing strictly on observable behaviors.
Observable behaviors.
Things a camera could record. Stella Pop provides a really highly effective formula to keep you on track.
I love this formula.
It removes all the emotion and focuses purely on causality. The formula goes like this. When you do X behavior, the impact is Y consequence. So we need you to do Z action to resolve it.
Okay, let me try to apply that.
Go for it.
So instead of saying you are so disrespectful and disorganized in client meetings, which is an attack, I would use the formula.
Right.
I'd say, when you show up 10 minutes late to the client presentation, the impact is that the client feels their time isn't valued and our team looks uncoordinated. So we need you to log in to the virtual meeting room 5 minutes before the scheduled start time.
Notice how different the energy of that second statement is.
It's totally neutral.
It's undeniable. You cannot argue with the fact that you logged in at 10:10. It is factual, and it gives them a clear, actionable path forward without making them feel like a terrible person.
Okay, so we've laid out the minefield. We know the mechanisms behind what not to do.
Don't let your anxiety delay the conversation.
Right? Don't silently endorse bad habits. Don't wing it and let your brain trick you into thinking you're prepared.
Don't trigger their passive listening by lecturing.
And absolutely do not hijack their amygdala by attacking their character. So now, this is where the Stella Pop guide gets incredibly practical.
Yes, the blueprint.
They synthesize all these fixes into an actionable, step-by-step framework, the 15-minute blueprint.
This is where the theory becomes a tangible tool you can use today.
Exactly. They walk us through the exact timeline of a perfect feedback session broken down into 5 distinct steps.
Let's go through them.
Step 1, environment and tone. The guide allots just 1 to 2 minutes for this. You need a private location and a clear purpose.
Right. You don't ambush them in the break room while they're getting coffee.
Oh man, that's the worst. And you don't disguise it as a casual, hey, let's catch up chat. You sit down in private and clearly state what the meeting is about.
Setting that boundary establishes professionalism. It signals that this is a safe, structured space.
Makes sense.
Then step 2 is where you describe the problem, which should take 2 to 3 minutes.
This is where you deploy that exact formula we just practiced.
Exactly. Be specific, be factual, and focus entirely on the behavior and the impact.
Okay, so we're maybe 4 minutes into the meeting at this point. Step 3 is the critical pivot. Listen and validate. This gets 5 minutes.
The largest chunk of time in the blueprint.
Right. And this is where you enforce that 70-30 rule. You've stated the problem factually using the formula, and now you hand the floor over.
You ask open-ended questions like, can you walk me through your workflow on this?
And then you actively listen, and you validate their perspective.
And we really should clarify what validation means here.
Yeah, please do.
Validating their perspective does not mean you agree that missing the deadline was okay.
Right. It's not a free pass.
No. It means you are acknowledging their reality. If they say, I was waiting on the design team, you respond with, I hear that you were stalled by the design team, and I understand how frustrating that is.
You're just making them feel heard.
Exactly, which de-escalates any lingering defensiveness.
But, let me ground this in reality for a second.
Okay.
Because 15 minutes sounds great on paper in a utopian office environment. But what if I'm at step 3? Listen and validate, and the employee just crosses their arms and gives me one-word answers.
Oh, the silent treatment.
Yeah. How do I enforce a 70-30 talking ratio when they simply refuse to speak?
That is the reality of management right there. If they cross their arms and give you nothing, your most powerful tool is silence.
Silence.
Yes, you ask an open-ended question and then you just wait.
Even if the silence stretches on, it becomes just, painfully awkward.
Especially then. Most managers panic and rush to fill the silence because it's uncomfortable.
I know I do.
Right. Which immediately shifts the ratio back to 90-10 in favor of the manager lecturing again. But if you hold that space, the tension will prompt the employee to step into it. They will eventually explain themselves.
Just wait them out.
Exactly. Now, on the flip side, what if they get extremely defensive or even start crying?
Right, the other extreme. High emotion. What do you do then?
If the emotion spikes, you rely on your preparation from step 2. You don't match their elevated energy.
Right, the anchor.
Yes. You stay calm, refer back to your notes, and gently guide the conversation back to the observable behavior. You just hold the boundary of the formula.
That is incredibly helpful. Okay, so once we navigate their perspective, we move to step 4. Collaborate on solutions. 2 to 3 minutes.
Right.
Because they're already engaged from scooping 70% of the time, you don't just dictate how to fix the problem. You ask them, hey, what do you think the best path forward is?
You share your expectations and you build a bridge together. You're treating them like a capable adult.
Bringing them in as a partner to solve the puzzle.
Exactly. Because when they help build the solution, they are infinitely more likely to actually execute it.
Which perfectly sets up the final phase, step 5, planned follow-up, 1 to 2 minutes.
This step is so important.
You don't just end the meeting with a vague, hey, just do better next time. You schedule a timeline.
You set specific check-ins for next week or next month, and you confirm that they completely understand the new expectations.
It creates accountability.
The follow-up is the proof that you are actually invested in their long-term growth, not just, scolding them for a past mistake.
So what does this all mean? When you add up those time blocks, 1 to 2 minutes to set the tone, 2 to 3 minutes to describe the problem factually, 5 minutes to listen and hold the space, 2 to 3 minutes to collaborate, and 1 to 2 minutes to lock in a follow-up.
It goes by fast.
It does. This entire perfectly structured meeting takes a maximum of 15 minutes.
That time cap is perhaps the most liberating takeaway from the Stella Pop framework.
It really is.
Because most managers avoid these conversations because they visualize an hour-long, agonizing, emotionally draining production.
I think it'll ruin their entire afternoon.
Right. But 15 minutes is a cap, not a minimum. It is designed to be highly focused.
It completely shatters the ultimate management excuse of, well, I just don't have the time to deal with this right now.
You have 15 minutes. Everyone has 15 minutes.
Yeah, 15 minutes to fix the steering alignment before the car crashes.
Yeah.
Or to rip off the bandage.
It really does strip away all the excuses. And to bring this all home, the guide reminds us of the fundamental mindset shift that makes all of this mechanics work.
Which is what?
When you sit down in that room for those 15 minutes, you have to stop viewing yourself as a judge handing down a sentence for past failures.
Okay.
You have to view yourself as a coach. You are actively coaching your team member on how to succeed in the future.
Constructive feedback isn't a penalty. It's the literal mechanism that transforms a good employee into a great one.
It's the only way people know how to adapt and grow. That is the ultimate value proposition of doing this correctly.
You're giving them the playbook to win.
Exactly.
Which leaves me with a thought that I want you, the listener, to mull over as we wrap up today's deep dive.
I'm ready.
If this source material is right, and the psychology we've unpacked today strongly suggests it, is that constructive feedback is the required vehicle that drives someone from being merely adequate to truly exceptional.
Right.
Then avoiding these conversations takes on a much darker tone.
It really reframes the whole concept of avoidance, doesn't it?
It does. Earlier, we framed that initial dread as a manifestation of our own internal anxiety. We feel awkward, we don't like conflict, so we put it off.
We protect ourselves.
Right. But if feedback is the specific key that unlocks a person's greatness, then avoiding it isn't just a harmless quirk of your management style.
Not at all.
It means you are actively choosing to cap your team members' potential just to save yourself from 15 minutes of temporary discomfort.
Wow. You are choosing your own emotional comfort over their professional development.
Think back to that bandage analogy or the spearing alignment. When you ignore the slight pull to the left, you aren't just delaying a trip to the mechanic, you're guaranteeing a breakdown down the road.
That's a powerful way to look at it.
So the question you have to ask yourself the next time you feel that heavy knot of dread in your stomach is this: are you willing to withhold the very information someone needs to advance their career?
Just to save yourself 15 minutes.
Exactly. Are you willing to let your own team stagnate just to avoid feeling awkward for 15 minutes? It's time to have the conversation.